I'm sorry. I thought you were going to say something. I'm John Zidar. This is On Top and Hot. And today is Wednesday. It's February 12th. Which means I've got my live streaming event tomorrow, 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I'll be there for about an hour, hour and a half, looking at stocks that you, the viewers, request. I'm taking requests for stocks under $5. We'll go over the fundamentals. We'll look at the share structure, obviously current catalysts, if we could find any, and the charts. That's 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time tomorrow, Thursdays, every Thursdays. Now, I tell you, I like to look at hot penny stocks. What do I consider a hot penny stock, folks? It's got to have two things. It's got to have a hot chart, and it's got to have a catalyst. And when I go searching for one, I do not go to the news and the press releases first. That just takes way too much time. And I have to judge what's hot and what's not. I find it easier to look at the charts first. I look for a bullish pattern, for a chart that looks like it's ready to run. When I find a hot chart, one that's got fire, then I go rummaging around through the press releases and the filings looking for some wood to throw on that fire. And I don't just look at current news, today's or yesterday's or this week's. I look back a whole month if I need to. Any piece of news that has any substance can get a hot chart running. Checkpoint Therapeutics is a hot penny stock. She has a hot chart. She's got that atypical breakout, which we've been calling the 200 squeeze here recently, and she has got a very hot catalyst. So Checkpoint Therapeutics, you got to be kidding. Out of all the stocks I could look at, and I did get to choose, I chose a biotech. I don't like biotechs because I hate reading the information. I can't pronounce the words, and I can't explain half of what they're talking about. So not only do I sound dumb, I look dumb. But here we are anyways. Look what I do for you folks. This is because it's a hot penny stock. We're going to rough it through. Checkpoint Therapeutics is an American company based out of Massachusetts. Finished today at $3.36, and she was up about 7.5%, jumping 23 cents today. Now, this is a penny stock on the major exchange. I like trading major exchange penny stocks over the OTC because they're free to trade. I don't have to pay to buy and I don't have to pay to sell. I can also trade these pre-market and aftermarket, which you can never do with OTC. There's a heck of a lot more money and volume up on the major exchange, which is something every single trader needs. And there's a lot more rules up on the major exchange. We need those too, but they're not for us, they're for the companies, but they do keep our investments safe. So what is Checkpoint Therapeutics all about? Well, they make drugs for cancer. They tell us here that Checkpoint Therapeutics, Inc., a Fortress biotech company, is an innovative immuno-oncology, fancy way of saying cancer, biopharmaceutical company focused on the acquisition, development, and commercialization of novel, non-chemotherapy, immune-enhanced combination treatments for patients with solid tumor cancers. They had news come out. The news came out last month. It's still big news. Checkpoint Therapeutics announces FDA approval of Unalaxit. Let's take a look at this news. Bet you I lost all my highlights. I sure did. All right, they tell us here that Checkpoint Therapeutics today announced that the FDA administration has approved Unalaxit for the treatment of adults with metastatic cutaneous squamous cell carcinoma, skin cancer. What they have gotten here is a marketing approval from the FDA. We're not approving the drug. It's already been approved. It's already through all the trials. It is the first and only drug of its kind. They tell us here that today, the FDA's approval of Unalaxit, the first marketing approval for our company, is a significant milestone for both Checkpoint and for the patients with advanced skin cancer. Now, I did get lucky. I got into an article over here at Seeking Alpha. I say lucky because they blocked me a long time ago. They want to charge me now. I've been using it for years for free, and they think I should pay now. I got a lot of sites that do that to me. But somehow I managed to get into this one so we can read what we've got going on here. Checkpoint Therapeutics received FDA marketing approval for Unalaxit, the first and only PD-L1 drug for advanced skin cancer, with strong clinical results and market disruptive pricing strategy. They are going to be selling their drug 20 to 30% cheaper than all of their competitors. Despite mixed investor reactions, in other words, the chart's been falling, Uniloxet's potential $1.6 billion peak sales, that's what they're shooting for. Not the market they're entering, the goal for their revenues, $1.6 billion. And their competitive pricing could make them a transformative player in the skin cancer market. Now, this is a really long article if you want to come over here. As I said, it came out halfway through December, and there's a lot of information here, but what I'm focusing in on is the money. Because this company has been research and development. They haven't been making any money. They came up with some money at the end of last year. They had $100,000. Woohoo! That's all they had. They tell us here that they expect first quarter of this year, right now, $4.5 million. The last quarter of this year, they anticipate to have about $31.5 million. I don't know what the two in the middle are, but they average it all together and tell us that they anticipate doing $52 million at the end of this year. They say it's going to be a slow rise. They want us to be patient and let this come together. But you can see how fast it's coming. They don't have any money basically on the books, $100,000, and they're going to jump to $52 million this year with continual growth to that $1.6 billion. Also found a SC13G. We see this is a Fortress Biotech company. It was a spin-out. It was underneath the umbrella of the company, and then they spun it out. Fortress Biotech is on the market, currently at $1.73, making all kinds of money. This is one of their spin-outs. Well, they just made a bigger purchase in their own company. They just bought 13.5% more of this company, which is really going to help it out. It's just more income for the company. So they've got a lot of different catalysts going on, folks. They have this drug that's been approved, and now they've got marketing approval, and they're already selling it. It's already happening right now. They're telling us that the revenues are going to be about $4.5 million this first quarter. So let's take a look now at the relative volume for the company today. It was down, dropping from under a million, about 900,000 shares as an average each day for the last 30 days, to about 750,000 today. Share structure. It's not bad. The outstanding share structure is about 48 million. I don't know what the insiders own, so I can't really figure out what the float's going to be, but I do know this. It's never any higher than the outstanding share count. And 50 million for a float wouldn't be bad. It's not a low float, but by golly, folks, we see stocks with a heck of a lot more shares than that. 50 million would be nice, but it could be considerably less depending on how many shares the insiders own. Market cap for the company, we're currently at about 150 million. Financials. I'm going to presume all this money is theirs. They've been here all this time. So back in 2020, adding 3 zeros to any of these numbers, they were at about $1 million. Dropped down to $250,000, under 200,000, and at the end of 2023, we were at just about 100,000. And I'm not quite sure where that money was coming from because it didn't cost them anything. This could be licensing fees, this could be consultancy, things like that. Looking at their quarterlies, they plummeted down to zip. We have nothing on the books right now, folks. And they say this quarter, we're already in February, at the end of March is the end of this quarter. They say they're going to have over $4 million. You should get ready. Get yourself a seat on this jet. Take a look at the balance sheet. Cash and cash equivalents, I think of it as the bank. We got about 4.7 million. Total assets, a little more than that, 5.1. Most of their assets is cash. Ooh, we got a lot of liabilities, a lot. Like 3 times that much, almost 18 million, which means we're holding stockholder deficit of about 12.5 million. That's on us. That's not the company. That's what we're holding for this company. So yeah, we would like to see some money come in and change that number for us. Taking a look at the disclosures, I showed you the SC13D here, we've got a lot of Form 4s, and I went through them all. Form 4s can be good news or bad news, or nothing at all. A Form 4 is filed whenever an insider acquires or disposes of the company's stock, the sort of stock we trade. But they can do that in a lot of different ways. Just to show you one, you jump inside here. Up at the top, it'll tell you who is making the transaction. Over here, it'll tell you who they are in the company. And then right here in the middle is all of the transaction. We're looking for an S for a sale or a P for a purchase. That's what we're interested in. As you can see, this has a footnote, and that footnote is attached right here. And if you read this, it has to do with restricted shares. These aren't our regular shares. They were selling something else. But we'd be looking for a P or an S without a footnote. This would be the amount of shares right there, and then how much they paid. And over to the far right, you get how many shares they own entirely. Well, all of these S4s, every single one of them is something else. Restricted shares, paying taxes, something like that. So we don't have any purchases. We don't have any sales. What we have is a company moving from research and development, spending, to commercialization, making money, bringing in revenues, changing the entire landscape of their financials. Now is a good time to be looking at the stock, especially since it's got a hot chart. The 200 squeeze. You know where we're at, right? No fooling you. Yes, we're over here at my free trading platform, Thinkorswim. We are looking at ticker CKPT. This is Checkpoint Therapeutics. Got her opened up to a 1-day, 1-year chart so we can get the overall feel and direction of the company's stock and get our 52-week highs and lows. As you can see, she has been on an uptrend here over the last year, breaking through the 200. She was at a low in May of $1.38, crushing that 200 and climbing strong. She hit a high in November of $4.50. Coming back down at the beginning of the year, close to the 200, from 450 down to 278, bouncing back up to another 200 it's wrestling with, the 200 haul. Couldn't get through it, has pulled back to her 20-day MA, which is where she's wrestling right now, at about $3.30. It's come on down to where I saw the heat. I was looking at the 6-month, 4-hour view. Now we are looking at a 200 squeeze, or as I've called it most often, the atypical breakout. The problem is that it's kind of hidden. We're used to seeing the chart in a fall, a long fall. The price and the 200 both coming down, and they finally find the floor and start to curve up. That's not what we got here. We had an uptrend, a pullback, and we came down to our 200 haul here, and we are setting up with that 200 squeeze, which is the 200-day MA on the top falling. Your 200 haul underneath climbing. Your price on top or above the 50. When you have this set up, it's got to be at least 8 out of 10 times you get a launch to and through the 200 MA. It's already happening. I found this stock earlier in the afternoon. She was not to and through the 200 yet. But after market, she has already started doing it. Doggone it. Looking at our oscillators, my PPO is in the midst of a crossover right now. That's a power move. Looking at my ADX, we have a crossover going on there too. The uptrend is moving to the top of the graph, and the downtrend is moving to the bottom. The upper portion is where the strength is at. The lower portion is where the weakness is at. So my uptrend is getting strength right now. Taking a look at our MACD, very much like our PPO, they are kin to each other. MACD uses the full price. The PPO, percentage price oscillator, right, uses a percentage of the price. Well, we got a crossover on our MACD, a double crossover. She's crossing this upper line right here, and she's crossing this floor, the signal line. So she's doing real good. And what does our RSI say? We have just gotten over the 55 point, which is as cool as I want to see my RSI. It is climbing, jumping from 42, and is currently up there at 58. This is really a nice chart, folks. She's jumped a little earlier than I was hoping she'd jump, but she's doing exactly what I was thinking she's going to do. Let's take a look at our 20-day, 1-hour view. So we have a bounce off of our 200 here. She has bounced up, and again, she is wrestling with our 200 haul. This is good. You can see she had a nice, strong bounce here after hours, going from 335 up to 350, and she is fighting that right now. You're going to want to put this on your watch list for early tomorrow morning. This could easily run pre-market. If she does run, if you get into her, make sure you're out of her before the bell. Whenever I get into a stock pre-market, I'm always out before the bell, because the bell changes the entire game. The algorithms, the pressures, it's entirely a different game, folks. So if you get into a stock pre-market, get out before the bell. In most cases, if the stock is running, as soon as that bell goes, it falls, because people who don't play pre-market aftermarket saw all the gains and just start taking profits. So we've got a strong run here right now, trying to break out. Our 20 is turned up already. Our 50 is just starting to go level, and our 200 is just starting to move up. Everything is looking fine. Our PPO is already at a crossover and pushing up. Our ADX has got the uptrend moving up very fast. The yellow line tells you how strong the dominant trend is. Right now, the green is our dominant trend, the uptrend. This, as it moves up, gains strength. It is starting to climb right now. Our MACD, she's pouring it on, folks. We had lots of green bars. She started to cool off. You can see that red bar right there. And now, boom, we got a big green bar coming back into the picture. And our RSI now has kicked up to 65 and is climbing fast. Come on down to our 5-day, 15-minute. Let's get all the chart we can get. Me likes a big chart. So we had our drop here from $3.90 through the 200. She tried to get back up on top here, but as you can see, she was cresting. So it was just a waste of effort if she was going to try to break out. She came back down. She's riding on her 200 haul all the way down here until she hit this low bubble of $3.01. Off of that, she jumped through and to and through the 200, and she went sideways virtually all day, waiting for some support. She is way the heck up here, only sitting on her 9. 20 was way down here. 20 caught up. She did bounce off of that 20 a little bit. Boink, got a little run on that. But then she saw this dynamic duo. The 50-day and the 200 haul were down here. That's really strong. Those are two big MAs together. A lot stronger than a 20. So she just neglected the 20, came down to these two, and she's going to work off of those. Here comes the 50 separating. Now she's stuck between the 50 and the 200, but look at that bounce. This is what I expect, folks. Right now, our 200 haul is cresting up and just about ready to go flat. She's getting all of her strength on a flat 200, and it looks like it's flat at this very, very moment. Look at that 9-day, folks. That 9-day ricocheted. Boink. That is a lot of power. And it stopped. It hasn't stopped. It's only 5:38. So if I get this video out in time, you might be able to buy some today. Honestly, folks, I am liking CKPT. She's got everything we want. She's got an approved drug that is just as good, if not better, than the other drugs. It is the only one of her kind. She is selling it 20 to 30% cheaper than her competitors, so she's going to undermine all of them. They are shooting for $1.6 billion revenue. They didn't give us a time limit on when they expect to hit that. But this year is their first year for really making revenues, and they're going to go from 100,000 to 52 million, with this first quarter having over $4 million. We're going from 0 in September to $4 million. Folks, this could be a hot stock. This could be a good swing. I'm not telling you to get into it. I can't do that because I'm not licensed. But I'm liking it for a short play. I'm liking it for a medium swing. What do you think? CKPT, it's probably worth doing some more due diligence, don't you think? Remember, folks, the more you know, the more you're going to grow. See ya.